I told you we would come back and talk some more about the law of attraction and why it isn't working, and the soul's answer to how it can work. And so today what I want to talk about is thought. What is thought? We have defined in the early stages of our understanding about the law of attraction, as it was first put out by Esther and Jerry Hicks and Rhonda Byrne and others. We thought that thought was the magnet. It was, if we thought positive things, then positive things would come our way. And so we determined to really try to control our minds and make ourselves think positive thoughts. And so we got in the habit of doing daily affirmations, hourly affirmations even, and creating for ourselves vision boards so that we could see the life we wanted, and we could put it into our thoughts, and we could change our thought patterns to more positive and uplifting ways of thinking. And then we would finally be able to have what it was that we wanted from this world. And so we, as I see it, we're bargaining with the world. If I think positive thoughts and create vision boards so that I can maintain a positive attitude and create affirmations so that I can constantly and consistently be telling myself positive things, then I will finally make my dreams come true. My desires will come about. And we're going to talk about desires the next time we talk, but for this time I really want to sort of feel this idea of thought. We don't know what thought is and what it isn't. That is the facts. Very often as I'm talking to clients, I will say, well, how do you feel about that? You know, that's a good therapist question, right? Psychobabble. Well, I will say, well, how do you feel about that? And they say, well, I think that so-and-so and so-and-so. Or they'll say, I feel that my husband shouldn't have done that. Okay? What they're saying is, I think that so-and-so and so-and-so, and I feel that. A feeling has no that in front of it. I feel angry, I feel sad, I feel sorrowful, I feel joyful, I feel peaceful. Those are feelings. But when it comes with the that in front of it, it's not a feeling, it's a thought. So it's hard for us to discern the differences between emotions and thoughts. So that's A, and an important A, because when we get those things mixed up, we're blurring the issue that was originally put forth for us by the folks who came to their initial understanding of the law of attraction. So, okay, there's that. There's also the fact that our very definition of thought includes such things as memory and even feelings. If you look in the Webster's Dictionary, as I do in the book, The Law of Attraction, the soul's answer to why it isn't working and how it can, what we begin to see is that memory is included. If memory is included, then, okay, what is memory? Is memory really thought? Well, once upon a time, it was thought to be thought. The theory was that memory was a part of thought, but there's been a lot of research done on memory, especially since we became much more aware of Alzheimer's. And now we understand that memory fires off in all the different capacities of the brain. It doesn't just fire off in one singular little place. It fires off in all the different capacities, in the amygdala, in the frontal lobes. It fires off everywhere. And so we can't really get a grip on what memory is. Now, we can think about a memory, that's for sure, but is memory thought? I don't know about that. So, you know, we have feelings that are included in thought. And, you know, I feel that, like I said a minute ago, in the definition, Webster's definition, we come up with things that are actually feelings, not thoughts at all. So we have a hard time defining thought. And since we don't know what thought is and what it isn't, it's hard for us to say, well, this is a thought and this is what attracted this particular thing into my life. I had this negative thought and therefore I had this automobile accident. And that's really how far we've carried this thing. And it becomes a form of magical thinking. That's the way children think. They say, oh, I hate my daddy, I wish he was dead. Now, most kids don't just say it that way, but they have a feeling, you know, that doesn't feel very good inside of them. So they begin to, you know, express that feeling in some kind of way. Well, next day, daddy has an automobile accident and he gets killed. Well, that's a tragedy. But what the kid is thinking is that there's a connector between the dots. I thought that and my daddy died, therefore I killed my daddy. That's magical thinking at its worst. And we all, you know, have some of those kinds of magical thoughts even as adults, you know. We just do. We connect dots that don't belong together. So when we're connecting dots that don't belong together, perhaps We're thinking that circumstances that came our way were the result of A, B, or C thought, when in fact, there may not be a correlation there at all. Maybe magical thinking. Once upon a time, when the law of attraction first came to be, as I said yesterday, we thought that it was all about thought, that thought was the only thing. And as time went by and people began to experiment with the law, they began to understand that no, there was a lot more to it than just thought. So maybe emotions needed to be included. And when that was experimented with for a while and that didn't seem to attract any better results, then we began to say, well, maybe it's our shadow. Maybe the shadow has a saboteur in it and it is keeping us from getting our, results. Well, we're going to talk about the shadow later, but right now, what I want to say is I had an experience in my own life, which is, we say that these thoughts have to be repeated and repeated and repeated, and the emotions have to go with them. Now we've come to say, well, if the law of attraction is really going to work, you have to put your emotions together with your thoughts. So you have to feel what it would be like to have that new car. Feel what it would be like to have that romance. Feel what it would be like to have that $1 million. So that's what's going to attract now. So that's the thing that people started saying about vision boards. We need a vision board so that we can put ourselves in the place of our dreams, and then our dreams will come true. Well, I put myself in the place of a nightmare at one point in my life. When I was a child, many, many nights, I would fail to have emptied the trash can during the day, and my mother would insist that I go ahead and empty it anyway, because that was, I was supposed to get it done that day, and I didn't, so I was going to have to do it. Well, it was dark outside, and this was many years ago, telling my age here, but many years ago, we didn't have the kidnapping problem that we have today. But nonetheless, in my mind, I thought, I'm going to get kidnapped. We had an alley behind our house where we put our garbage cans, and the garbage men would come down that alley and pick up the garbage cans and be gone. We had a long yard that we had to walk through before we got to the alley. So, maybe it was 50, 60 yards long. And just before you got to the alley, there was a gateway, and the gateway was covered with honeysuckle, so that you couldn't really see through it, and you had to duck down to walk under the honeysuckle. Well, I would run really fast to that gate and then stop dead and start trying to figure out where was that guy that was going to get me in the alleyway. And could I hear him? Could I smell him? Could I see him? I was really terrified. And so then I would duck under the honeysuckle really fast and throw the trash at the trash can, missing it in lots of times, and run fast as I could back to the house, feeling that man behind me trying to catch my ponytail all the way. That happened many, many nights. Now, that's some pretty heavy law of attraction work, right? I had my emotions there. I had my big, imagination going there. I was really in it. It was really happening to me. That man was after me. Well, guess what? There never was a man in the alley, and there never was any time in my life when somebody tried to kidnap me. Okay? So I did not attract what I thought I was going to attract. So that's the thing about what I thought I was going to have in my life at that point. And if I were relying on that instance to have created a law of attraction for me, there would have been a man in that alley. I would have created it, because that's what the law of attraction has told us, is that we manifest reality by our thoughts. Never happened. How many other worries have you had that you worried about and worried about and worried about and worried about and worried about, and it never happened? How many times have you thought the boss was after you about something when he wasn't or she wasn't? How many times have you thought you were going to have an automobile accident and you didn't? All your emotions were all up in that, right? But it didn't happen. So when we start connecting the dots between our thinking and what's going to happen outside of us, here's what happens. We get scared. We get scared. We're afraid of our own thoughts. So what's going to happen then is we're going to repress everything that's negative, we consider to be negative. And we're going to talk some more about what is and what is not negative later as well. But when we consider our thoughts to be something that might attract something bad into our lives, what we're doing is we're saying, oh my gosh, be afraid. It might really happen. Oh my gosh, I've got to make sure I don't have any negative thoughts that will attract these terrible things into my life. And so we repress and we repress and we repress. And every time a quote-unquote negative thought comes into our awareness, we cover it up with an affirmation really fast. I don't believe, here's what I really believe. Here's what I'm going to say. And we can't have any negative words in the affirmations because they might attract as well. There are literally people out there, and you might be one of them, who is saying, erase, erase, literally, in a kind of obsessive compulsive way after every negative thought. Or denying it. Oh, well, I didn't really think that. I'm just going to take that away. Here's what I really think. Well, when you're contriving what you really think, you don't know what you really think because it's all contrivance. So who are you really under all those thoughts that you're contriving? We don't know. And as long as we're out of touch with who we really are, how are we going to attract what we really want? That's one of the primary reasons why the law of attraction, as we currently understand it, is not going to work. Because the soul is invested in who we really are. The soul wants to bring us what the soul desires. So on that note, we're going to talk next time about soul desires and how to distinguish soul desires from other things that might look like soul desires, but aren't really. So stay tuned for more. This is Andrea Matthews, the author of the book, The Law of Attraction, The Soul's Answer to Why It Isn't Working and How It Can. We'll be back later with more information about this. For now, have a great evening.